Hi, and welcome back to my channel, where I continue to cover the Dungeon Master's Sidekick tools provided by Tasha's Cauldron of Everything source module for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. In this video, I will be leveling the Spellcaster class Sidekick we created in the previous video. And as we progress leveling this character, I will explain each new feature and adjustment that should be made to ensure the character remains usable between each level. However, keep in mind that the Sidekick NPC character should only be leveled when the average level of the party is greater than the Sidekick's existing level. And additionally, as we discovered in the video where we leveled the Expert class Sidekick character, it's best if the DM applies the new level to the character, but it can be left to the player to set up any of the final pieces within the Actions tab in the event that any new feature is actionable in such a way. So with that, let's begin the process of leveling our Spellcaster through the Spellcaster class. The first thing to note is that in this particular case, when we apply level 2, the only thing that is really going to be changing is the list of known spells. If you recall that when we set up this particular character, we were able to choose 2 cantrips and 1 spell. And that's because that's what level 1 restricted us to. We have 2 spell slots, however, which is what we show here in this particular case. And that doesn't change when we increase our character's level to level 2. The only thing that is going to change is how many spells this character is going to know. So let's drop level 2 into place and then select our next spell. Now, if you recalled, the last time when we set up this particular character, we selected the mage role. This means that we need to be able to select spells from the wizard's list of spells, not from any other source. So the easiest way to get access to those spells is to simply go here. Then we actually select our level filter and then select the source. In this case, we want to select this because selecting this category will ensure that these 3 categories are also included in the selection list. And we want to be able to make use of all of the spells that we can. Now we already have Magic Missile, so we don't need to worry too much about that particular spell, and for the purposes of this video, and to progress it along, I'm just simply going to select another spell and put it there. Now, if you remember, wizards need to prepare spells in order for them to be able to cast them, otherwise they won't show up when you move the action tab into the combat stage, and specifically allow combat and actions to be configured. So when you're preparing spells, you switch it to the preparation phase. When you're in combat mode, you leave it in combat, and if you're just curious about the spells, you leave it in standard. Level 3, we are still only gaining a new spell. We are, however, unlocking another spell slot, which it's strange that level 2 also seemed to unlock a spell slot, so I'm going to fix that. If you do see that, all you need to do is switch your actions tab to the preparation stage and just modify that. There is currently an issue with the sidekicks where the spells aren't necessarily configured properly. Hopefully this will be looked at, and I'll be sure to mention it as we progress. So let's drop level 3 into place. Make sure that we now have the correct number of spell slots, which we do not. Let's get rid of level 2 there. And then we want to throw on another spell. And your filter will remain in place as long as you don't shut down Fantasy Grounds. When you shut it down, it will clear itself out. So as long as you keep Fantasy Grounds open, that will remain. And I'm just going to drop this into place to expedite this particular video. We also need to make sure that it's prepared. And that's it. We are good to go. For level 4, we are gaining our first feature, which in this case is an ability score improvement capability. So let's drop this into place. Make sure that our spells, which we don't unlock level 2 until we hit level 5, so this needs to go away here. We did not gain an increase on that, but we did gain an increase in our cantrips. So let's go and deal with that first. So select spells and then select level 0. Level 0 are cantrips. All we have to do here, I'm just going to throw mending into place. And now I'm going to go through and explain how the ability score improvement works. Just like a standard player, when you go through and increase a sidekick's ability scores, you do get the ability to make one of two choices. You can increase one ability score by 2 points, but it can't go past 20. So let's say we had our dexterity or our intelligence already at a 20, we would not be able to increase that score any further. But because our intelligence score is 18, we could potentially increase that intelligence score up to 20, and that might be the way that I go in this particular case. The other option is to take two ability scores and modify each one by 1 point. So we could take our strength and our dexterity and increase each of them by 1 point, whereas with the previous option, we could only take strength if we wanted to increase that and increase it by 2 points. There is potentially a third option, and this falls down to the Dungeon Master and whether they will allow it. But generally, when a player character increases their level to the point where they get an ability score improvement, they have the option of also choosing a feat in lieu of your ability score improvements. So instead of taking the +2 to a particular ability score or taking the +1 to 2 ability scores, you could theoretically take a feat. Feats are quote unquote additional features that you can add to your character. And we selected a feat when we created this character because we were able to acquire the Warcaster feat as part of a racial trait. The rules that introduce the sidekick do not state that you cannot take a feat, which implies, in my mind, that you should be able to also potentially take a feat in lieu of an ability score improvement. That's going to be entirely up to the Dungeon Master, and the reason for that is feats are an optional rule. And they're optional because in some cases they are considered a little overpowered. Other DMs don't see it that way, but there are quite a few that do. So depending on the campaign you're going through, and if you're controlling a particular sidekick character, you may be dealing with a Dungeon Master that isn't necessarily going to allow you to make use of the feats capability. I wouldn't worry too much about that if that was the case. However, those that do give you the ability to select one. In this particular case, because we've already more or less done a feature for this particular character, I'm simply going to increase the intelligence by 2 points. And the reason I'm going to do that is because it directly correlates to this casting capability of our character. So now that any spell that is here that has like an attack roll will have an increase in the bonus modifier during the attack roll die, and potentially will also increase in damage depending on if the spell itself allows the intelligence modifier to be added to the damage. Not all spells do. The other reason why I decided to go that route is because of our proficiency with our intelligence saving throw. In addition, any proficient, shall we say, skill here will be modified by our intelligence modifier, but so will non-proficient skills. So if you look here, here's one here that is modified by our intelligence as a +5 for the bonus, but we're not proficient in it. So all the skills here that rely on intelligence will be improved. That just increases the capability of this particular character. So going this route is definitely viable than necessarily taking a feature or increasing 2 points by 1. At level 5, we will be gaining another known spell. We also have an increase in our spell slots for first level, and we are finally unlocking 2 second level spell slots, which means we can take a second level spell for this particular spell that we want to choose. So let's drop this into place. Let's drop down to actions. So we have 3 and 2. We need to make sure that we have 4 and 2 there. So there's definitely an issue with the spell level. So this is something you're going to have to correct until they address it within the actual rule set or game engine, if you will, that's making these changes. I'm also going to open up spells again and select level 2, and then just drop a level 2 spell here. And let's see, let's go with Mel's Acid Arrow for now. And there's a reason why I did that. I wanted to showcase what happens when you gain both a proficiency score improvement at the same time that you drop a level into place and you acquire a new spell. If you recall, we set up our ability to be the intelligence ability score. That means that we should have had a +7 bonus here because our proficiency score was +2 prior to this level, and in combination with our +5 intelligence modifier, that gave it a +7. But we happen to also gain an additional point at level 5 in our proficiency score. That means that our attack capability has now gained another +1 point that we can make use of. Our saving throw has also increased, as well as any proficient skill that we have, that has also increased. So that's what changes when you acquire a new proficiency point there. And that's everything we have to do for level 5. At level 6, we will be gaining our next feature. We do not see an increase in cantrips or known spells, nor do we see an increase in our active spell slots, so we'll want to make sure that they remain as they are. And we do not see any additional increase in our proficiency at this particular point in time. So the only new thing that we'll be receiving at level 6 is potent cantrips. Let's drop that into place. Open up our abilities, pop this open, and see if this is something that we need to add to our Actions tab. The Potent Cantrips feature is now giving our Sidekick the ability to add their Intelligence modifier. In this particular case, it's Intelligence because we chose the Mage role. If we had chosen one of the other roles, it would be either the Wisdom or the Charisma modifiers. So if you remember, we had the ability to go with Mage, Healer, or Prodigy. Well, that's Intelligence, Wisdom, or Charisma. In this particular case, it's Intelligence. And we can add that to the damage of any cantrip that actually does damage. Now, the only one that we have is Firebolt. So we need to simply modify the Firebolt damage modifier here by opening up the window that allows us to change the amount of damage that is being dealt, and simply adding our proficiency bonus, so it should be PROF here. And the minute we do that, we now gain a +3 to that. Actually, that is incorrect. It needs to be Intelligence. I apologize. I got a little bit carried away because sometimes it's proficiency. So we need the Intelligence modifier to give us the +5. That looks correct. And that's all we have to do. Any cantrip that we add to this particular category here, we need to make sure that we modify it to add the Intelligence modifier to the actual damage. There is no way to do that here, as far as I know. This is your ability modifier, which means it's going to modify your attack capability. The attack modifier simply changes from this to something you define here, and the save modifies this field here, so it doesn't actually make any adjustment to the damage. There's nothing here to do that. And that's everything that we have to do for level 6. Actually, there is a correction there. We do need to fix our spell slots because we should only have 4 first level spell slots and 2 second level spell slots. So we need to get rid of that 3rd level spell slot. Now we're done with level 6. At level 7, we are simply gaining an increase in the spells that we know and an increase in our spell slots for 2nd level. So let's drop this into place. Fix our spell slots. So we are gaining 4 and 3, right? Yep. Get rid of that one. Clear that out. That fixes that. And now let's add a 2nd level 2 spell. So I'm just going to go with Detect Thoughts. And just minimize those for now. Detect Thoughts. Interesting. Here we go. Now, you see here that this is a Wisdom saving throw. It is a Wisdom saving throw from your target's perspective, but it is making use of your Intelligence modifier because that is your base. So if we set this to intelligence, we should see that this remains the same, and it does. So keeping it at the base value for now, I always go past it, so there we go, will affect nothing here, and it will simply set up this value correctly. That's because it's using this ability score already. That's what these two base tags do. So we don't have to change anything here for this particular spell. We've already fixed that up, so that is everything we need to do for level 7. Actually, nope, there is one thing. We need to prepare the spells. I keep forgetting that. At level 8, we are gaining our next ability score improvement. In this particular case, nothing else is changing, so we'll want to make sure we fix our spell slots as well. So let's go up to the top here. Nothing else changes there, and we should have 4 and 3, and we have 4 and 3. Okay, so in this particular case, I cannot increase my intelligence score any further because we're already at 20. We can't go any higher. But this character is doing fairly well when it comes to the bonuses as well as the skill points. So we could theoretically look at increasing, say, this particular skill here, or ability, and maybe our charisma, and that will only leave our wisdom as the only 12 this particular character has. Or we could decide to take a feat. I'm just simply going to increase these two. Oops. There we go. Just for the purposes of demonstration. But that is everything that we need to do when it comes to level 8. At level 9, we are seeing an increase in our proficiency score, as well as the number of spells that we know, and we are finally unlocking level 3 spells. So let's drop this into place. First, fix up our spell slots. So this should be 4, 3, and 2. Get rid of that and that. And let's add our first 3rd level spell. Select this. Go for 3rd level. And we'll add Fireball. And now we have our 1st level spell, and we'll prepare it to make sure that it is available. And let's see, that is everything that we need to do for level 9. At level 10, we are actually seeing no increase at all. So this is literally just going to be an increase in the character's level, which means we're gaining hit points. And we will need to make sure that we fix up any additional spell slots that came through here. It should be 4, 3, and 2, 4, 3, 2. Get rid of that, and there's no additional spell slots that we have to worry about. So at level 10, we did increase the number of known cantrips. So let me quickly grab another cantrip here. Let's go with Poison Spray. And if you recall, cantrips do get a damage bonus based on our ability modifier for intelligence. So we need to make sure that we set that up so that it increases the amount of damage. That's everything that we have to do for level 10. At level 11, we are gaining an increase in our known number of spells and an increase in our 3rd level spell slots. So let's drop this into place. Fix up our level here. So it's 4, 3, and 3. Yep, 4, 3, and 3. And we will drop another level 3 spell. Let's do water breathing. That one's always fun. And then we will set it up to be prepared. At level 12, we are gaining an ability score improvement and no other changes. So let's drop this into place. And for the purposes of demonstration, I'm going to take a feat, and I think I will take, what is it here? Spell Sniper, if I'm not mistaken. Let's have a look here. Yes, Spell Sniper. So I will add this particular feat, if you will, in lieu of an ability score improvement. So with the Spell Sniper feature, you're gaining a couple of things. But first, let's make sure that we add it to our character. And all you do is you drop that into place there. The next thing that we want to look at are the 3 bullet points here. And the first bullet point states that when you cast a spell that requires you to make an attack roll, so anything that has an attack modifier here, and an attack one, Firebolt, for example, would be an example of that. It's essentially stating that your range is now doubled. So in this particular case, without Spell Sniper, you could fling this 120 feet. With Spell Sniper, you can now send this 240 feet as long as you can actually see the target you're shooting it at. That is a nice little bonus. It does not, however, affect the range of any other spell that doesn't have an attack roll. So this one here has one. This one does not. So it would not affect Poison Spray, as that is a saving throw. Nor would it affect the Detect Thoughts one, or any of the others. I don't know why I rolled that. It would also not affect Fireball, because it is also a saving throw. It is not an attack roll. So you got to be careful. However, Melf's Acid Arrow is an attack roll. So of the spells that this particular character has, Firebolt and Melf's Acid Arrow would have their ranges effectively doubled. The next feature that you're gaining, or bullet point I should say, is that your ranged spell attacks now ignore half and 3/4 cover. So the only way you would not be able to hit someone with a normal die 20 die roll is if they're in full cover. All other cover is flat out ignored. If you can even see a smidgen of that particular target, you can hit it. And you can do so without rolling with disadvantage. The third bullet point now allows you to take an additional cantrip, though there is a limitation to it, even though you do get to choose it from the Bard, Cleric, Druid, Sorcerer, Warlock, or Wizard spell list, regardless of what class your character is. That limitation is that it has to have an attack roll. For example, I can now choose the Warlock's Eldritch Blast spell. That does require an attack roll. Oops, I don't want that. I want... there we go. So Eldritch Blast does require an attack roll. Make a ranged spell attack against a character. That means that we can choose this. So I'm going to drop that into place. And as you can see, it is already set up to make use of our intelligence spellcasting ability, because we have already got a range of +9, and if we compare that to our Firebolt spell, it matches. Excellent. Keep in mind as well that the range for Eldritch Blast is also doubled. So it is 120 feet normally. It can now be 240 feet away for your target. Before we're done with setting up Eldritch Blast, though, we still have to add the intelligence modifier to the damage. So let's make sure that we select that. And now we're doing +5 additional points of damage. And that completes everything that we have to deal with for level 12. At level 13, we are gaining an increase in our proficiency bonus, the number of spells that we know, and we are unlocking 4th level spells. So let's drop this into place. Fix up our spellcasting slots here. So we now have one 4th level spell, I should say. So it should be 4-3-3-1, and we have 4-3-3-1. Excellent. We can now choose a spell from our level 4 spell slot. And for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm just simply going to grab Ice Storm. And we can see that is now in place. Excellent. At level 14, we are gaining a new feature called Empowered Spells. Nothing else is changing. So let's go ahead and add our level. And then take a look at this new feature. So Empowered Spells gives you the ability to take a specific quote-unquote school of spells that your character may be walking around with, and be able to modify those particular spells so that you can now do your spellcasting abilities modifier of additional points of damage or healing, depending on whether it's a damage-based one or a healing-based spell. So in this particular case, our character primarily has quite a few evocation spells. But at the same time, we're already gaining the ability to add our intelligence modifier score to our cantrips. So it's not going to help us there. But it will help us for all of the other spells that happen to fall under evocation. So it still makes sense to potentially select that as the school that we wish to choose. And that's what they mean by the school. It could be the evocation school, it could be illusion, it could be conjuration. It's entirely up to you. If it happens to be healing related ones, it could be one of the divine schools. So it could be the life domain, the war domain, whatever. Doesn't really much matter. It all comes down to which school you wish to choose. In this particular case, I will select evocation for the purposes of this demonstration. So, I'm going to have to go through this quickly and pull out all of the spells that are evocation based. So just bear with me for one moment, and that includes our fireball. Lovely. And level 1, is that an evocation? Yes, it is. None of the others, I believe, are evocation or do any damage. So no, for that. Divination for that. Okay, so these are the spells that we need to modify. So let's start off with our level 1 spell. And just all we have to do is simply add our intelligence modifier to it. That takes care of that one. So our next one is Fireball for level. No, actually Melsassad Arrow, sorry. And we will be doing the damage bonus here. The damage bonus does not apply to the effect. It only applies to the initial damage roll. As I understand it. I could be incorrect, and I would love if someone would correct me on that, but I'm pretty certain it does not apply to the effect that gets thrown onto somebody, only the initial damage roll. So that takes care of that one. Let's do Fireball. Modify this. We're going to be adding intelligence to that, and then finally our Ice Storm spell. And that is here. Now, they have gone ahead and decided to split this out because there are two different types of damage that come into play. You only get to choose one of these as the damage selection. It does not apply to both of these because it is a single modification. So it doesn't really matter which one you add this to. They're both going to see that plus 5 damage total. So if I, for example, roll this as damage, you're going to get a total, and the plus 5 is always going to be there. So you don't need to worry about adding it to both. And that completes everything that we have to deal with for level 14. At level 15, we are gaining an increase in our known spells and an increase in the number of 4th level spell slots that we have. Let's drop this into place, go down to actions, and fix up our number of spell slots. So get rid of this level 8, add a 2 there, so it should be 4, 3, 3, 2. 4, 3, 3, 2. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and add another 4th level spell. I'm going to go with Wall of Fire. And remember, we have to modify this Wall of Fire and add our intelligence modifier because it is an evocation spell, and that is the school that we chose. We probably should go ahead and actually add evocation so that we remember which one we made the modification to. Now, I am unsure as to why there is 2 5d8 fire damage references here. I don't think that's required. It could just be a misimportation of the rules. Okay, yeah, so one side will deal with damage. That's probably what represents this. but it doesn't really matter. You should be able to add the modifier to both of these in this particular case because they serve a different purpose, even though the die doesn't increase or change in any way, shape, or form. So you would make your initial attack roll, you would do this for their damage, and then if somebody happens to be on the other side of the wall during the next round, you would cast this for that damage if they're within proximity. At level 16, we are seeing our second to last ability score improvement, and I believe that is everything that we're getting. Yeah, there's no other increases. I'm going to drop this into place, and I am simply going to increase our Constitution by 2 points to bring this up to 5, so that I can explain another thing that you have to consider when you increase an ability score. If you didn't catch it, the Constitution modifier bonus increased by 1 point. That means this character is missing 16 hit points. How did I come to that conclusion? I'm glad you asked. Because this increased by a modifier bonus of 1 point, we take that 1 point and we multiply it by our current level, because we would have otherwise gained that 1 extra hit point while we're gaining these levels. And then we simply add that to our total number of hit points. So in this case, that would be 71 if I'm not mistaken. In fact, I am mistaken. It's 81. My math is off today. Oops. And that is literally all we have to do. So just be cognizant that when you increase your Constitution score, if it increases the actual modifier bonus that you're gaining, you have to also add the number of levels you are currently at after the level increase to your total number of hit points. At level 17, we are gaining another increase in our quote-unquote known spells, and we are unlocking our first of 2 5th level spell slots. In addition, we are unlocking another 4th level spell slot. So let's drop this into place. Make sure that our spell slots are correct, which they do not appear to be. So it should be 4, 3, 3, 3, 1, and nothing there, because we can't get anything past 5th level spells. And let's go ahead and drop a 5th level spell onto this character. Because we are only gaining 1 known spell, we're not gaining 2, despite the fact that we're gaining 2 different spell slots here. So let's go with, I think Wall of Force is a damage. How much does it do for damage? No damage, apparently. It just simply is a wall that you can't really break through. Alright, then let's go with Cone of Cold. And then we will modify it because it is an evocation spell. We will add our intelligence modifier to it. So there we go. And now we're ready to go. That's everything that we have to do for level 17. At level 18, we are gaining our last ability score improvement, and nothing else is changing. So let's just simply drop this into place. And I'm going to increase our wisdom by 2 points, just for kicks. And that's everything that we have to do for level 18. At level 19, we are gaining another known spell, and we are also unlocking our second and last spell slot. Our second 5th level spell, but our last spell slot total, I should say. So let's drop this into place. Make sure that the number of spell slots that we have has not adjusted, which it has. So it should be 4, 3, 3, 3, and 2. So it's 4, 3, 3, 3, and 2. Excellent. Everything matches. And that will not increase any further. So when we go to level 20, we'll have to make sure that we adjust this again. And we are gaining our last spell. So let's go ahead and throw another 5th level spell here. I'm going to go with Bigby's Hand. That's always a fun one. And is that evocation? Yes, it is. Which means... Oh, wait, I was looking at the wrong one. It is. So yes, we can go ahead and add our damage bonus here. There we go. And let me just quickly read the description to see where that 2d6 is coming from. Okay, so it is a different utilization of the hand, which means so we can add... it's already being added, so we don't need to worry about that. Excellent. It's already taken care of for us. And we don't need to worry about that spell listing anymore because when we gain level 20, we're only going to be gaining a feature. At level 20, we are gaining focused casting as a new feature, and everything else is remaining the same. So let's drop this into place, fix up our spell slots for now, just to make sure that nothing else has changed. So it should be 43332, 43332. Excellent. Everything else is zeroed out. So that takes care of all that. I did forget, however, to prepare all of those spells we added the last little while. Bing, bing, bing. It's always the one thing I forget. I don't know why. And let's take a look at focused casting. With focused casting, if the spellcaster takes damage while they are concentrating on a spell, they will no longer break concentration. They are so focused on that particular spell that you could knock them out before they would end up losing concentration on that spell. That's what this particular feature gives you the ability to do. There's nothing we have to adjust in order to actually add it to our actions tab. I'm going to briefly check to see if there's an effect that we can add to our character to make ourselves immune to concentration checks, but I don't think there is. No. I have confirmed that as things stand now, Fantasy Grounds does not have the ability to essentially tag immunity, if you will, to a concentration-based check. So you just have to make sure that if an automatic concentration trigger is kicked off, that the effect that was originally there is re-added to your particular character with the number of rounds that remained set properly to what it was. So you'll have to keep track of that. That's everything that we have to do for level 20. And with level 20 set up and ready to go, that completes everything that we have to do for configuring our spellcaster character, including all of the features that they gained, which, well, let's be honest, it wasn't overly that many. Just a handful. It was primarily the spells that came into play. But you're going to be using a spellcaster sidekick primarily for their spells anyway. So it makes sense that that's what they gain. With that, I hope you found this particular video informative and useful to you, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. I wish to thank you for taking the time to watch this particular video. I hope you found it informative and useful to familiarizing yourself with Fantasy Grounds in general, and that you had fun in the process. If you found the video useful and you liked the content of the particular video, go ahead and click that like button to let me know. And if you have any questions specific to the topic covered by this particular video, or just have some comments in general, please feel free to post something in the comments section, and I will do my best to respond to any questions that are asked. Additionally, I do release content quite regularly, and it's generally specific to Fantasy Grounds or 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons at this time. So if you'd like to be notified when new videos come out, go ahead and subscribe and click the notification bell to ensure that notification is sent to you when I release a new video.